correct. This is the 702 open line. We're taking your calls on 011-883-0702. WhatsApps on 072-702-1702. An American empire. Are you ready for that? Is the world ready for that? Saul, you're calling us from Highlands North. What are your thoughts? Good morning.
Well, good morning. Happy New Year as
Happy
well.
New Year.
Although it's, I don't think the world's ever been ready for any sort of world empire. I mean, we've seen the dastardly events of the Second World War, prior the Soviets, etc., etc. But going back to what Trump's doing, even in America, his own party, as reported in the Business Day this morning, 5 Republicans have broken rank and have advanced to allow the upper house of the U.S. Congress to advance a resolution that he can only use military force if it's being authorized by Congress. So they're trying to push a bill that he can't just arbitrarily go to war with anybody without actual approval by Congress itself. So there are moves afoot, I think.
But there are already rules that exist that Congress must be consulted before. He's already violated that.
Yeah.
Remember when he received the plane from the Qataris? He's always there are a number of things, Saul. I suppose my point is there are a number of things that he was supposed to do in collaboration with Congress or with the approval of Congress. And there are a number of times when he just fundamentally failed to do so, and there's never been consequences. And the argument I'm trying to make is when you take actions so many times, at some point you render Congress irrelevant. So it doesn't matter what bill they're going to pass. The point is the power exists and is within the president and within the executive, and we've seen it being exercised. I don't see what's going to stop him now.
Well, hopefully, rules-based democracy and the law. I mean, at some point, somebody's going to have to stand up to him. Maybe these 5 Republicans are showing the way. I don't know. It's too early to tell. But anybody that has such a view of rules and democracy, who just is able to wash it away in the stroke of a pen, is frightening. That's all I think.
It's very threatening, Saul. And together with you, my friend, I'm also hoping that there can be some sense. But look at the people that he surrounds himself with. Like, that's why I'm mentioning Lindsey Graham. This is the man who, in fact, some reports suggested last week that it's Lindsey Graham who actually got Trump to ultimately invade Venezuela and kidnap the president. There are some articles that suggest that coming out of the US. But I do think that is also simplistic. I think Trump has always had a vision about his second term. In fact, he's always had a vision about when he becomes president. These are his last years. And now it makes sense why the tariffs, everything was happening so fast. The executive orders that he signed coming into office, because he knows that he's going to run out of time. At some point, there may even be an impeachment. I mean, if there are enough Republicans that are going to break rank, he will have to be worried. So these are the actions of a man who knows that he doesn't have all the time. These are actions of a man who knows that he may be impeached at some point. So do as much as you can now. And that is the worry. When he's doing that in a rush, where is the space for rationality? Where is the space for thorough analysis of the actions? Because you want to rush, because you may run out of time, because your own party, some within your party can go against you and you end up losing power. You end up being impeached. Hence, I'm asking, what's next? Is the world ready? And how does America stand there with a straight face and wants to talk to Putin about his invasion of Ukraine when Trump himself and America have just taken actions like they have in in Venezuela.
Hi, Clement. Welcome back. Maybe he's not deranged, but he behaves like somebody who is. It's like a bully going to a student who's just received her university degree to say, I will share your university degree with you. I'll take it from you. It's absolutely crazy. But in terms of the people working for him, we had it here in South Africa during the Zuma era, especially. We've seen how ANC parliamentarians defended him over and over again against possible notions of no confidence in him when he was handing this country to the Guptas. Think about everything that was enabled under the Zuma leadership in South Africa. Think of all those people who defended and shielded him. It's not different.
Team on this issue of Donald Trump and the country as America wanting to become an empire, I certainly cannot wait for the day where they no longer have to make excuses for invading or taking, where they just say, because we feel like it and because we don't have to answer to anybody else. We don't have to explain ourselves. And that surely is coming in the future. If all the rest of the countries just sit back and are avoiding to speak up against it. America will soon become a country who invades and does not have to explain themselves to everybody else. And that is extremely scary.
Yeah. So, one thing I think I probably like about Donald Trump is that I don't want to call it honesty because I don't necessarily think he's an honest man. But I think, let me say it this way because maybe you'll help me phrase it. For the longest time, America, I think, has always wanted to behave like, maybe not an empire, but this superpower that is respected, whose authority is asserted, and a superpower that can, through its actions, whether it's military, whether it's soft power, they can move things around. And with Donald Trump, he doesn't, I mean, if this was Joe Biden, they would have come up with an explanation of, oh yeah, this is the reason we're doing it. They would have found a nice international angle to justify the invasion of Venezuela, like in that way, and the kidnapping of its president. Whereas Donald Trump is very clear. He's like, I want the oil. Yeah, sure. We worried about, drugs. We worried about, migration. Yeah. We worried about how this man is a dictator, but we want the oil. And we're going to get in there. We're going to run this country and we're going to sell their oil. And the proceeds of those sales will benefit America and the Venezuelan people. I don't think Joe Biden would have had the spine to say it like that. And I'm saying, as we move on, as Trump even considers Greenland and they talk about Cuba, and the more they do that, the more he's going to be more and more clearer and blunt about what his mission is in the presidency. And I think his mission, because he's always felt America is not respected anymore, his mission is to, whatever needs to happen, to assert America as an authority. But America then, when it becomes an empire like that, loses the moral authority. He must not even bother to go sit with Putin to try and get on a deal that's going to get Putin to get the soldiers out of Ukraine. I mean, they must forget it. On what basis? How dare they? Mark, you're calling us from Randburg. What are your thoughts?
Hi, Clement. Yes. So what is the difference when America invades countries and whether America takes over the economy of the world? They're still manipulating. They're still pulling the strings as and when they want to do these things. Explain to me the difference. That's first point. Second point is that if you look at the fall of the Roman Empire, it started internally. It started with people revolting internally against the Roman Empire.
Yeah.
And so what's happening in America at the moment is the fight against ICE, the manipulation of the currency and the economy. The economy is in decay. And so you start looking at all of those factors and you're saying that America is going through what most empires have gone through. It's all there already. Classic example is how many trillions are leaving the country. I think it's BlackRock recently took out $1.7 trillion out of the economy, and they're putting it somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not just the perception that Trump is going to invade Greenland and look at Cuba and all of those kind of things. It's both on the economic front, it's a political fight, as well as a civil unrest that's taking place in America. So from that point of view, I think it's inevitable, to your point, that the American world empire, as we know it or understand it to be, is all crumbling. And how does that affect us is the major question.
Yeah, and you're right about the internal revolt. At some point, historically, all the empires, there is revolt. You go down, and it's the masses that take you down. But does Trump even care about that? He's probably thinking, that's going to happen when I'm out of office. But for now, I want to be the president that actually establishes this. But back to your point, I mean, hard power uses military force. In fact, I would argue that economic coercion, right, to compel other people, that also forms part of hard power. And then, of course, soft power, you are using, your attractions, whether it's through culture, your political values. But I do things that even with lies, like I keep on giving this example of the U.S. ambassador, Bridgetti, the former U.S. ambassador, Bridgetti. If you remember what he did, he went on television and he said, South Africa has supplied arms to Russia to fight in Ukraine. And when we asked, but where's the evidence for that? They are unable to share that with us. I mean, it got to a point where they had to settle things out and they agreed. There's nothing like that. The South African government did an investigation and said nothing like that even happened. And the ambassador seemed to walk back on his words, but he didn't apologize. He only apologized for the way it was communicated. That's not only that. Do you remember the time when the U.S. Embassy issued out a notice to say there may be a terrorist attack, something along those lines at Sandton City? Do you remember then? It was ahead of a very hectic, busy weekend for Sandton City. They issue out an alert like that. They have not consulted the South African government. What do you think that is? And I'm not suggesting here that is also using soft power to put pressure. I'm just saying that any country that is powerful enough will do whatever it can to try push their agenda. And if it means they must issue an alert to mess up with your economy, I mean, that was going to be a busy weekend at Sandton City. In fact, around Sandton, it was quiet that weekend because nobody knew whether there will be an attack or not. Was that one of the ways that the US was using its soft power to push for something else? Because our government, I mean, I remember Zizi Kota was the state security minister at the time, if I'm not mistaken. He was busy walking around Sandton on that weekend to try and show people that it's not true. They have not even shared with us the evidence that may have led them to believe that there may be a terrorist attack. So there are a number of ways through which you can exert your power as a superpower, especially when there are no international rules. And I see some of you are mentioning the United Nations. Really? The United Nations? You still have hope that the United Nations has the capacity, as it currently stands, to stop any war? If so, what have they been doing all along when Israel has been bombarding Gaza? If so, what have they been doing about Russia, which has invaded Ukraine? I mean, what year are we on now? That's not a multilateral institution that has power. It's not. So without rules, I mean, there are rules of war. Throw that out of the window. Because you've already thrown other aspects of international law out of the window. The US has even threatened that it's going to pull out of these multilateral organizations. Think the World Health Organization. Think the United Nations. Think NATO. My goodness. They're threatening to pull out of these organizations. What does that leave us with? Sillo, you're in Woodmead. What are your thoughts? Good morning.
Morning, Clement. How are you?
I'm all right, man. Go ahead.
You've hit the nail on the hammer, and mine is very simple. I think we are seeing this craziness, all of this unusual acts purely because of the fact that Trump is hiding something, doesn't want the Epstein files released to Clement. The Venezuela thing. The director of the intelligence of America was not even present when they invaded Venezuela. In fact, not so long ago, she was attending some conference specifying that this President Trump, is not about regime change, is not about to attack any foreign country, blah blah blah, only for this thing to happen as a law enforcement, and I'm putting it in inverted commas, law enforcement. But you've got and the army, the U.S. Army, involved, and all of a sudden we are hearing Trump saying he will act as president. You've got the oil company CEO saying that Venezuela is uninvestable. I don't know how he's going to manage it in the next 3 years to provide them with security. He attacked Venezuela now with the guise of taking oil for the benefit of Venezuelans, blah, 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 without even having spoken to the CEOs. Only now is he scrambling to speak to the CEOs, and now he's threatening NATO. Now and that international law doesn't really subscribe to it. We must go with what his morality tells us.
Yeah,
this is not somebody who's thinking strategically. Initially, I actually thought Venezuela oil blue. It's a big strategic move. It will help the American economy in as far as reducing the inflation towards the end of this 2026. Maybe then the American economy will be doing well, and maybe he may just win the midterm. But you then see as this thing unravels, or normal, there's no plan here. This is just haphazard. Every day it's haphazard. It makes one even wonder: will we be safe as foreigners to even attend this World Cup in the U.S.? You know how fans behave. I mean, but in America now, with just being shot and killed by this ISIS, well, there's justification. Apparently, they've got this immunity in doing whatever they want. But all of this is the 2 million documents that have not been released. Despite him, making it law that when was it? December 17th. All of them were supposed to have been released, and we know that 2 million is still outstanding. I think it's the hiding of the Epstein file. I think there's plenty things happening there that implicates.
So you think they're trying to divert attention? I mean, also, if there was something incriminating in the Epstein files, don't you think that the Democrats, would have at least leaked some of that already? Because I wonder if there's anything that really implicates Trump directly. Because trust me, if it was there, Silo, that would have been leaked a long time ago. That would have been used to prevent him even from running for office. And yes, maybe there is like stuff that is sort of, that will embarrass him a bit, or, make us question his morals. But I don't know if whatever it is out there is strong enough.
Remember two very strong MAGA in Marjorie Taylor Greene and that Lauren Boebert were called, and with Marjorie Taylor Greene specifically, Trump apparently said to her that a lot of people will get hurt, are going to get hurt if they push for this thing. And so we don't know who those people are.
But it's still the he said, she said. I worry though that everybody works on an assumption that, we think. But American politics works on discrediting. So the minute you announce that you're running, in fact, your chief of staff needs to sit down with you, your campaign manager, and say, whatever secret you have, put it out on the table. Because in the American system, that's going to come out. That's how they do their politics. And I do think that if really there was something in those files, because there are a number of eyes that have gone through them, we would know by now that incriminates Trump. And I don't think there's anything strong.
I mark my words. This Epstein implicated everybody. Epstein made it his mission to know everybody and have dealings with everybody.
Yeah.
We still don't know the extent of his wealth, how he made his money, what he was doing in terms of making his money. We know Trump was a beauty pageant person. We know Trump himself was a Democrat before. And we've seen there's a lot of senior Democrat contributors. Why are they not releasing if there's nothing? That's the other question to what you are putting. Why are they not releasing?
And I think that's a fair question, Silo. If really there's nothing, then put everything out and not just the extracts that have already been put out. Yeah, Silo in Woodmead, thank you so much for your thoughts, my brother. Robert, you are in Four Ways. Hi.
Hi, Clement.
Sure.
Good morning. Compliments of the season.
Compliments.
Look, I have a thought. Maybe this is just only my dreams, but almost 100 years ago, to the few years, the one person comes to the power, which was the Adolf Hitler. He was doing the same tactics. He find a group of the people who can blame to make a Germany great again. So he find the Jewish people. We have a very coincident. Donald Trump comes to the power. He blame immigrants for the all failure of the America. Now, the annexion of the Austria and invasion of the Venezuela, very coincident things. And I can tell you something, this is a very, very dangerous person for the whole stability of the world. In my opinion, he has an enormous power, enormous power. He has an enormous arsenal when he will not hesitate to use.
Yeah.
I listen to him, he say the international laws, he doesn't care about them. It is the level of his discretion of his morality only what is actually gonna decide if you're gonna leave or not.
Yeah. Robert in Four Ways. Yeah, thank you for your contribution. Quite scary, actually, listening to how you're putting it. Zamani, you're in Davidton. What are your thoughts? Hi.
Yes, how are you? I'm just going to be straightforward. As South Africa, I think we are misrepresenting ourselves because since the world existed, things like this happens. Is either you take it and make an opportunity about it, like the apartheid government did with the World War I, where we've got your company like Amco, Denel, that were established to supply arms and all those, and then we became the third largest army in the world. But now, because we don't have presidents or leaders with backbones that can stand their ground, there's nothing wrong about what America is doing. It's only wrong because in the eyes of those who don't know what they want, where are they going? It's either America can be great again, the way Donald Trump is saying, is either America can fall. That is up to the tactics of America. It's not up to South Africa to play a peace negotiator. What that will not bring food in our tables. That will not bring employment. That will not bring business. Nothing. It will only empower those who are in power. But if we can take a stand like apartheid did to empower ourselves with the situation of the world, read the geopolitics, read the room, and be a nationalist. Donald Trump has changed from being a Democrat to be a nationalist to protect his country first. China has done that. Russia is doing that. China is in Taiwan. Russia is busy with Ukraine. Why don't they reprimand America? Only our useless leader without backbone who doesn't know how to become a superpower.
Okay, Zamani and Davidson, thank you so much for your thoughts. We'll pick that up after the news. Maybe I'll play some of your WhatsApp voice notes as well before we get to our next conversation.
You're with Clement Manyathela
on 702.
Let's walk the talk. Streaming on the Prime Media Plus app.
DSTV channel 856,
92.7 and 106 FM.
7 minutes after 10 o'clock. Dumela, welcome to the second hour of the Clement Manyathela show. Thank you for staying with us here on 702. We're going to speak in a moment to Raul Stolk. He is the director of Caracas Chronicles. Caracas is, of course, the capital city of Venezuela. And I want us to just find out what the situation is on the ground and what the people in Venezuela think the next steps are, and how is the government in Venezuela and even the opposition leaders responding to what Donald Trump has announced. I mean, he seemingly says he's the acting president of Venezuela. He indicated last week that he'll be sending a team over to Venezuela that's going to run that country, sell the oil, until there's going to be a leader of Venezuela, which of course needs to have the green light of the United States. There's a WhatsApp voice note, in fact, not a voice note, a text that's come through, which I think is asking a very important question. And this is from Daddy, who says, "Good day, Clement. My main question on America invasions and land grabbing is, where is Europe in all of this? And what is stopping Europe to speak directly to their strategic partner? Europe is blaming Russia for the same crime that America is committing in front of their eyes. What is the purpose of NATO anyway?" Precisely the point. And you should have seen the European Union and other European countries. I mean, there's only is there even one that has been very firm in condemning the United States? I have not seen a statement like that yet. I mean, a lot of them are calling for restraint. They are calling for the respect of international law, but there's no condemnation. And this actually reminds me of our own government in the beginning. When Russia invaded Ukraine, it was so difficult to get them to condemn Russia. I interviewed, the international relations minister at the time, or even Lindiwe Zulu at the time in the ANC, was the head of the international relations subcommittee in the ANC. I spoke to all of them, and they did not want to condemn Russia, but they called for, let's respect international law. That's exactly what Europe is doing now towards America. And that's when you realize that politics, and especially global politics, are quite selfish. They're about the interests of each individual country. Europe doesn't want to piss off Donald Trump. They want to tread carefully. Right? They have to tread carefully. So it's very tricky. Now, how do they go after Russia, but they can go after the US? How does the US even begin to enter a conversation about what Russia is doing in Ukraine when it's doing what it's doing in Venezuela and potentially in other countries in the Western Hemisphere? It's 10 minutes after 10 o'clock.
Your voice.
Your questions.
Your morning radio with Clement Manyathela.
This is 702.
All right, so because of the time zone in the Americas and where we are now, I recorded a conversation with Raul Stolk. He's the director of Caracas Chronicles. I recorded this conversation early this morning because it was going up to midnight in America. So I recorded it via Zoom so that I can play it for you and we can get a sense of what's happening on the ground and what we can expect next. So here's a chat with Raul Stolk, who's the director of Caracas Chronicles. Okay, Raul, thank you so much for making time for us. Good morning.
Good morning, Clement. How are you?
I'm all right, thank you. Let's just start with what the situation is like on the ground in Venezuela right now. What have you been reporting? What are people saying?
Okay, first, the situation is very fluid. We have gone through different stages during the whole week. In the beginning, it was more focused on security on the ground. We had some journalists, Venezuelan journalists, that were arrested during the week and then released. Then everything was focused on what was going on with the oil industry and Trump sort of like taking over the Venezuelan oil industry. But the last couple of days, have been more focused on the release of political prisoners. A couple of days ago, the president of the legislature, who is the brother of the leader in charge right now in Venezuela, it's called Jorge Rodriguez, said that they were working on a large-scale prisoner release. They said it was like a unilateral gesture for the peace of the country or something like that. But we know that it's something that that the Trump administration required. And well, that was a very interesting day. Obviously, a lot of people very happy because in Venezuela there is close to 1,000 political prisoners.
Yeah.
We were expecting during the first days to see at least 400 released, but up to this day, and this started on Friday, and we're on Sunday right now, and only around 18 have been released.
Okay.
There's a lot of talk on what could be going on. On one side, some people think that it has to be with delays on the process, that some judges have to be reached and papers have to be signed and stuff like that. Others believe that it's a delay caused by an individual called Diosdado Cabello, who is the interior minister, who's kind of in charge of the police in Venezuela, and he's believed to be kind of sabotaging Delcy Rodriguez's rule and relationship with the United States by delaying these release.
So as things stand now, is the Venezuelan government taking instructions from the U.S.? I mean, I know the U.S. still wants to send an executive of sorts that's going to help run Venezuela. But in the meantime, is it more instructions coming from the U.S. on what the Venezuelan executive needs to do?
It's very clear that at least on what pertains to oil, they have been complying with everything that the U.S. has been requesting. The first thing that Trump said on a social media post was that Venezuela was going to sell, that they were going to sell between 30 million and 50 million Venezuelan oil barrels. And that process started already. Those millions of barrels, there's a lot. That's actually something that works both ways, because right now, because of the blockade, the quarantine that the United States Armada has Venezuelan sanctioned oil tankers. Right now, there is a problem with the storage of the oil because there's too much inventory, and Venezuelan production was about to be cut. So in a way, getting rid of these oil barrels helps Venezuela not cut production. But the United States has said that they will sell the oil in the international market and that they're going to manage the funds for the benefit of Venezuela.
But, the U.S. president said that's going to be for the benefit of the Venezuelans and Americans.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry?
How do Venezuelans feel about that? Because, I mean, a classic example, if I were to make it practical here at home, that's like the U.S. government coming and basically taking control of our raw minerals here and then sell them at an international platform, well, of course, but according to the market price. And then they do that for the benefit of America and South Africa, even though those are our raw materials. And I wonder if Venezuelans understand it the same and if they are okay with that, for as long as, of course, America has taken out, as some describe him, a dictator.
Yeah, well, there's a lot to unpack there, and it makes absolute sense. I think that there is beyond the oil issue, because one thing is, as you said, they took out Maduro, who was incredibly unpopular, and he stole an election in 2024. And on the other hand, the Chavista state has been incredibly corrupt. And Venezuelan oil was distributed by Maduro allies, and at discounted prices and through shadow fleets, and none of those funds would go back to the country. So now you have the only client that actually pays, saying that they're going to manage the finances. So I don't think most Venezuelans are not really concerned about that, but they're more concerned about the issue of democracy, obviously. They're more concerned about the election that was stolen in 2024, and because many people expected that if the U.S. was going to intervene, they were going to help get the president-elect sworn in. But that wasn't the Trump strategy. And
by president-elect flown in, what do you mean? Like someone that the U.S. just picks in America to say, go run Venezuela?
No. In 2024, there was an election in Venezuela.
Yes.
And a presidential election that the Maduro lost, and the people who won by almost 70% of the vote. Maduro stole that election. And that elected president, which president-elect, because he's not the president because he hasn't taken the oath, had to flee and be exiled in Spain. At the same time, the leader of the opposition, Maria Corina Machado, had to hide for over a year, and she's now abroad. She's supposed to be traveling to the U.S. Next week. But most people in Venezuela were expecting that if the U.S. intervened in the way that they did, that they would help the president-elect get sworn in the country.
Where is the president-elect now? And do you think that Trump trusts...
That didn't happen.
Yeah. Do you think Trump trusts that president-elect that most Venezuelans, as you say, had hoped that this intervention by America would help at least see him in office?
Well, that's an interesting question, because what ended up happening, instead of Trump supporting the opposition and the rightful president, what he did was that he decided to work with the remains of the regime. And I don't think that it's not that he doesn't trust the president-elect, but what he has said, and I think that there's something to it, is that he didn't see in the opposition, in the president-elect, and particularly the leader of the opposition, Maria Corina Machado, he didn't see that they would have the capability to keep the country, like for instance, the military at bay, or to like institutionally Venezuela is broken, so he didn't see that they had the capacity to sort of like in a way keep the country running, and he saw that in the regime. So what he did was remove Maduro and sort of in a way kind of empower his vice president. But it's not that vice president is empowered, but more like controlled by the Trump administration. But that woman now, Delcy Rodriguez, has to deal with pressure from the United States and pressure from the other factions of the regime, the military, and this guy who's the head of the police, who's very powerful, who are pressuring her to kind of resist the control of the Trump administration. But the truth is that the Trump administration said that either the regime plays ball or they're going to go in again.
But what is the likelihood of the U.S. government allowing whoever is going to be leader of Venezuela ultimately to be a leader that works in the interest of Venezuela and to be a leader that responds to the needs and expectations from the people of Venezuela who, let's say, would have voted him in? So even if there are fresh elections tomorrow or soon, because at the end of the day, a precedent has been set here. Whoever becomes leader, whether or not chosen by the Venezuelan people, would still have to work in the interest of not only Venezuelans, but the interest of America as well. So you'll still need to respond. To respond to the Trump administration and do as they want in some way.
Yes, that is probably why Trump didn't go with the opposition people, who are incredibly popular, who have a political capital that Chavismo doesn't have, and who probably would have pushed back on the way he's handling things. And that is the biggest worry of people in Venezuela right now. It has to do with democracy and self-determination, obviously.
Yeah, and of course, and that's completely out of the window now because of what has just happened. Yeah,
yes.
So
absolutely out of the window.
It's completely out of the window.
But the feelings in Venezuela, you have to understand that it's people are worried about this, but it's a mixture of feelings. Because on the other hand, if the release of political prisoners moves forward and the kind of like the oil business gets in line and Maduro doesn't return and the Maduro regime is weakened, because one of the biggest fear of the people is in Venezuela is repression. If all that is controlled, and it's what people are hoping that will happen, then it's not like they're going to accept it. But right now there's a little bit of hope that will be controlled. So again, it's a very complicated feeling when you have discussions with Venezuelans right now on the ground. What you will find is a mixture. It's a mixture between celebration and uncertainty. But one thing that could control this if like the rightful opposition were on the ground and probably working along with the Trump administration, but that's not happening. They just decided to throw them, under the bus in a way, and to work with the regime, but mostly focused on business.
So what's next then, Rel? What's the next thing? The last update I saw, Trump said he was going to send some kind of an executive, someone who would represent America's, oil industry, but also someone from who's higher up in the Trump administration who can help maybe run Venezuela. But I wonder how safe they're going to be. And I know Trump has said they don't want soldiers on the ground, boots on the ground, but there's no way you're going to send like senior executives or senior, officials from the U.S. to a country that you're taking over, and you don't send them with the army for protection. So at some level, even when that team comes, there's going to be a very, 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 very high contingent at the very least of American soldiers to protect that team.
Well, when Trump was asked about boots on the ground last week, he said, because he's always said that he didn't want to put boots on the ground, but he was asked, and he said, "Well, we put boots on the ground already, so yeah, we're not afraid of it." There was a group of diplomatic personnel who went and the embassy is not open, but they went to kind of make an inspection of the premises, and they arrived like just this week. So there's and both countries said that they would reestablish diplomatic relations, and I think that we can expect to see like presence of American soldiers. I think that the situation on the ground is partially controlled in that sense. Marco Rubio is supposed to be leading kind of that strategy from the U.S. side. Again, I think that the embassy will be up and running in a week. It's very likely. And I know what you're saying about security, but it's not like the Venezuelan military are gonna try to do something, because they are, as it was proven during the Maduro extraction, they are completely unprepared and unequipped to deal with the U.S.
Yeah.
So it's a situation where of submission, basically.
Yeah. How many people have been killed? Because the first time when Trump announced, this capture of Maduro, he indicated that nobody had been killed. And then later on, when we hear the updates, I think from the Venezuelan side, there was a mention of about 100 or so, soldiers and other security personnel and other people that had been killed during that capture. What do we understand from the authorities on the ground about who's been killed?
Well, the authorities on the ground never give numbers of anything, and their numbers are very unreliable. As a matter of fact, they there was no mention from the authorities about people killed until the Cuban government issued the names of 32 Cuban officers that were killed in the operation. And on the other hand, independent journalists have been working hard to get to put together the list of the deceased. Up to now, the count goes up to 78, I believe. Mostly military personnel from Venezuela and Cuba. And I think that up to this moment, there's 4 civilians that were killed in the attack.
Okay.
But the number, the confirmed number with names is 78.
Okay, 78 confirmed number with names. Okay.
There could be more, of course, but yeah, that's where it is right now.
What is China and Russia saying in all of this? Do you think that the Venezuelan government, the executive, are reconsidering the country's alliance with countries like China and Russia? Because again, that seems to be the reason that the U.S. administration advances, as one of the reasons why they have to protect themselves, and Venezuela then becomes a strategic country in that regard.
Well, yeah, that's what they say. I don't think that that's the main reason, but Russia and China are not doing a lot to help Chavismo right now. I think that China right now is more concerned about the oil business, but I don't think that from what the energy secretary in the U.S. has been saying. And for many other reasons, I don't think that the United States is going to bump China out of the Venezuelan oil business. The main reason being that one big part of the exports that go to China are a debt payment that is being paid in oil barrels. Mm-hmm. And if the U.S., in a sense, is going to help, if you want to say help, or manage finances for Venezuela, they are not gonna want.
Hanging out with Clement
on 702.
Let's walk the talk.